Dear learner, I welcome you all to the massive open online course on emerging technologies in renewable energy. I am Sanjay Agrawal, Professor and Pro Vice Chancellor of Chhattisgarh Swami Vivekanand Technical University, Bhilai. Dear learner, in the previous lecture, we have discussed on the topic that is solar radiation. And under this module, we have discussed heat transfer characteristic of surface, then we discussed radiative properties of the real surface. After that, we were able to focus on what is the concept of the solar radiation. Then we discussed how to estimate solar radiation on horizontal surface and on tilted surface. So learner, in this particular session, we are going to discuss what is a photovoltaic effect, and then we will discuss working principle of the photovoltaic. After that, we will discuss different type of solar cell and how its electrical efficiency is calculated. Then we will also discuss different type of the photovoltaic system for the power generation, and under this different type of PV system for the power generation, we will discuss grid connected, or you can say on grid PV system, and then we will discuss standalone, or you can say off grid PV system. So first of all, we are going to discuss what is solar photovoltaic. So solar photovoltaic is the process of directly converting sunlight into electricity using a device known as solar cell, or you can say photovoltaic cell. So solar cells are made of semiconductor material. Different types of the semiconductor material are used to manufacture various types of the solar cells. And you know, the silicon is the most commonly used semiconductor material in the fabrication of the solar cell. At the moment, silicon semiconductor is used to manufacture approximately 90% of the PV module on the market. Now we will discuss the different parameter associated with the solar cell, like short circuit current, open circuit voltage, fill factor. So first of all, we will discuss what is a short circuit current. So as the name is indicating, that short circuit, that means suppose you have one solar cell and every solar cell have a two terminal, right? When you short circuit this two terminal, and whatever the current will flow through that circuit through the solar cell, that current will be called short circuit current. Or you can say when the voltage across the cell terminal is zero, then current flows through the solar cell is known as short circuit current. Generally it is denoted by I suffix SC. Now another parameter we will discuss, that is called open circuit voltage. So as name is indicated, open circuit, that means if terminal, or you can say if you have two terminal of the solar cell, it is open, or you can say no load is connected, then open circuit voltage is measured across two terminal of the solar cell. This voltage is affected by the manufacturing technique and the cell temperature, but is largely unaffected by the intensity of the solar radiation. The typical value of the open circuit voltage is 0.5 to 0.6 voltage at the standard test conditions. Now we will discuss the BI characteristic of the solar cell. Here you can see in the figure that on vertical axis current is being denoted, and on the horizontal axis voltage is denoted. So a graph of output voltage versus current for different levels of the solar insolation and the cell temperature is the BI characteristic of the solar cell. So as figure shows a typical BI curve of the solar cell. Here you can see that this P suffix max, or you can say P max, represents the maximum power that you will achieve through solar cell. The current at which maximum power occurs is denoted as I max, and the voltage at which maximum power occurs is denoted as V max. Now we will understand what is maximum power point. So here you can see in the graph, so it is the maximum electrical power that is solar cell can produce under standard test condition. What are those standard test condition? So standard test condition means if intensity is 1000 watt per meter square and solar cell temperature is 25 degrees centigrade, or you can say if ambient temperature is 25 degrees centigrade, then it is called standard test condition. It represents the point on the VI curve where the product of current and voltage is maximum. On the VI curve of solar cell, it occurs at the bend point of the curve. Now another parameter that you must know, that is called fill factor of the solar cell. So fill factor is defined as the ratio of P max, that is maximum power, to the product of short circuit current and open circuit voltage on the solar cell, that is called fill factor. Mathematically you can write fill factor is the ratio of P max upon product of ISC and BOC. So and P max can also be written as product of I max and B max. Another term that we have to know, that is called efficiency of the solar cell. That means how we will calculate the electrical efficiency of the solar cell. So this efficiency can be calculated if you have a different parameter, like you have intensity, you have a size of the solar cell, and you have a maximum power, then you can easily calculate the solar cell. So the efficiency of the solar cell is defined as ratio of maximum electrical power output to the input power incident on the solar cell. And what is that incident power? So incident power can be calculated as, just you have to multiply incident and area of the solar cell. So mathematically you can write efficiency is equal to P max upon P in. What is this P max? P max is nothing, it is a product of maximum voltage and maximum current. And input power is what? Input power can be calculated as, just you have to measure the intensity, and this intensity can be measured by the different instrument as we have discussed in the previous lecture, like solarimeter or pyranometer, and then you have to multiply it of the area of that solar cell if you are calculating the efficiency of the solar cell. If you are calculating the efficiency of the PV module, that means you must know the area of PV module. And this P max can also be written as fill factor multiplied by the maximum current and multiplied by the maximum voltage. And you know what is the input? Input is nothing, it is a product of intensity and area of solar cell. Now we will understand the working of the photovoltaic solar cell. So here you can see in the diagram. So when a photovoltaic cell is exposed to a sunlight, it produces a voltage or current. It is called photovoltaic effect. So a solar cell is essentially a PN junction diode. A typical silicon solar cell consists of a boron doped p-type semiconductor and phosphorus doped n-type semiconductor. When these two are connected, an electric field is created at PN junction. The schematic diagram of typical solar cell you can see in this particular figure. So when sunlight strikes on a solar cell, photons are absorbed. Some photons have energies greater than the energy difference between the valence and conduction band of a solar cell semiconductor material. And after absorbing such a photon, an electron in the semiconductor material jumps to the conduction band and forming an electron hole pair. These are known as light generated electrons and holes. The electric field created at the PN junction gives this electron and holes momentum and direction. The electron near the PN junction moves to the n-type side, while the hole near the junction moves to the p-type side. As a result, the potential difference is created between the two sides of the junction, and if the two sides are connected by an external load, current flows from positive to negative. So you know, a typical single photovoltaic cell is about the size of compact disc, and due to its small size, single solar cell can only generate a limited voltage and current. It can generate nearly 0.5 to 0.6 volt of direct current voltage, and the power generated by solar cell is determined by its efficiency and size. Just you have to remember some point. The photovoltaic cells are made of at least two layers of semiconductor material. One layer has a positive charge while the other has negative charge. When light falls on the cell, some of photons are absorbed by the semiconductor atom, freeing electrons from to flow through the external circuit and back into the positive layer. This flow of electrons produce electric current, and each absorbed photon can free only when electron creating a electron hole pair. These are the conditions for the occurrence of the photovoltaic effect. So the basic condition for the photovoltaic effect are: one is absorption of the photons creating electron hole pair in a semiconductor. Second is what? Separation of the electrons and holes so that their recombination is inhibited. Collection of the electrons and holes separately by each of two current collecting electrons so that current can be induced to flow in a circuit external to the semiconductor itself. There are many ways to achieve these conditions. One common approach for separating the electron from the hole is to use a single crystal semiconductor PN junction as discussed above. Now we will discuss the type of photovoltaic cell. Photovoltaic cells are divided into two categories. One is crystalline solar cell and another is thin film solar cell. First we will discuss the crystalline solar cell, or this comes under the first generation category. At the moment, the majority of the solar cell on the market, about 90%, are made from the crystalline silicon wafers. The single crystal are used to make monocrystalline solar cell. Single crystalline wafer are typically, you can say the size is 125 mm or larger in the size with the pseudo square shape. Monocrystalline silicon cell are typically colored and cylindrical shape. Monocrystalline, or you can say polycrystalline solar cells, are made up of multiple crystal. These are constructed from the square silicon substrate cut from the polycrystalline ingots grown in the quartz crystal. Multicrystalline wafer are typically 100 mm into 100 mm, or you can say larger and square shape. The effectiveness of the commercial crystalline solar cells are in the range of 16 to 18% for monocrystalline cell and 15 to 17% for the polycrystalline cell. Now we will discuss about the thin film solar cell, which comes under the second generation category. The thin film solar cells are 100 times thinner than crystalline silicon solar cell. These are made from the amorphous silicon. In contrast to the crystalline silicon, atoms in the amorphous silicon are randomly arranged. Thin film solar cells use less material than crystalline silicon cells, making them less expensive. However, the efficiency remains as low as, you can say, 6 to 7%. Thin film solar cells are primarily made of compound semiconductor such as cadmium telluride and copper indium gallium diseleride. Because of the smaller size, they can be made from flexible in design as shown in as figure. As a result, they can be laminated on a building's windows and the roof as shown in the figure. Now we will discuss the multi-junction solar cell, which comes under the third generation. By combining the best feature of the crystalline and thin film solar cell, third generation solar cell technologies aims to improve the performance and the efficiency of first and second generation solar cell. These cells are made of organic polymer and amorphous silicon. They have multiple junction made of different layer of semiconductor. These cells are cost effective and efficient than crystalline and thin film solar cell. The various configuration of multi-junction solar cell you can see in this particular diagram. Now we will discuss the photovoltaic module for the solar panel. So a single solar panel typically produce a very low voltage as we have already discussed, that is 0.5 to 6 volt. So this voltage is insufficient for most practical applications. A larger voltage and current can be generated by connecting a number of solar cells together. So module consisting of, you can say, 36 number of solar cells arranged in series or in parallel combination. So you can say module is nothing, it is a basically interconnection of different solar cells which is connected either in series or in parallel. Suppose, as we have discussed, the output voltage of typical one solar cell is 0.5 voltage. Now suppose you need a 36 voltage, or you can say 18 voltage. Just we can take example, we need a 18 voltage. That means if you want to take the 18 voltage, that means you have to connect 36 solar cells in series, then you will get the 18 voltage if output of one solar cell is 0.5 voltage. Or because all the solar cells are connected in series, that means current will be the same. If output current of one solar cell is suppose 4.2 ampere, that means by this module you will get 18 voltage and 4.4 ampere current by this PV modules. PV modules or solar panel are constructed by connecting solar cell in series to produce desired current and voltage. Photovoltaic panels are available in variety of size and shape depending on the desired power output. A typical crystalline PV module contains very thin silicon solar cell. A string of cell is placed between a top glass cover and encapsulated and a block cover and back cover to provide strength and protect the cells from the damage. The back cover is made of an insulating Tedlar sheet or transparent glass sheet. An outer metallic frame is attached for strength and easy mounting on the structure. At the back of the module, a terminal box with positive and negative strings are also installed. There are two types of crystalline PV modules available depending on whether the back cover is opaque Tedlar or transparent. So first is glass to Tedlar, or you can say opaque PV module with Tedlar back cover, and second one is glass to glass, or you can say semi-transparent PV module with glass back cover as shown in this figure A and B. The power output of PV module is affected by the solar intensity, solar cell temperature, solar cell electrical efficiency and load resistance. So the majority of the module manufacturer produce module with 12 volt, or you can say 24 volt output voltage. Now we will understand the photovoltaic array. So first of all we have discussed the solar cell, then we have discussed the photovoltaic module. Now we will discuss the photovoltaic array. So many PV modules are connected in series or parallel in the larger PV plant. A photovoltaic array is a system made up of number of PV modules that are electrically connected together in either series or in parallel. Connecting many PV modules in series results in higher voltage, while connecting many PV modules in parallel results in higher current. So if you can say, if you need more voltage, that means you have to connect all PV modules in series. If you need a more current, then you have to connect PV modules in parallel. So accordingly, on the basis of how much current is required, how much voltage is required, this PV array can be connected either in series or in parallel, or combination of series and parallel combination. In general, the series connection are preferred to increase voltage. For example, if two PV modules are connected in series, the voltage doubles while the current remains the constant. Even if the voltage, current and power rating are nominally the same, mixing PV module from different manufacturer in a single PV array is not recommended. The transition from single solar cell to PV array is described in this particular figure. So here you can see in the diagram, the upper one is a single solar cell. Then single solar cells are connected in some combination either in series or in parallel. Then you will get the one PV module. Then number of PV modules are connected in combination of series and in parallel, then it becomes the PV array. So first unit is a PV cell, then PV panel, or you can say PV module, and then combination of these PV modules are called our PV array. Now we will discuss the solar PV power system. So solar PV generation in the process converting solar energy directly into electrical power using PV modules. In the PV system, number of PV modules are linked together to form the PV array, as we have already discussed. Although the PV array generates power when exposed to the sunlight, a number of other components are required to convert, control, distribute and store the energy generated by the PV array. The following are the primary component of the PV generation system. So here you can see in the diagram, that means you need a PV module, then you need a battery bank, you need a converter, like different units are required. So first one is a solar photovoltaic array. So what photovoltaic array does? It converts sunlight directly into direct current. Then you need a controller. So what is the function of controller? Controller regulates battery charging and protects it from overcharging. A battery bank is not always required in a PV system. It is only required if PV system includes a battery bank. Now we have to understand why the battery bank is required and what is the function of the battery bank. The energy produced by the PV array that is not immediately consumed is stored in a battery bank. Few PV systems use the electricity generated immediately and do not require the battery bank. So the cost of this particular PV system is also depends on this battery bank. If you need to store, that means you need a battery bank. So if battery banks coming in the picture, that means the cost of the whole system will increase. The another unit that you need to require, that is called inverter. What is the function of inverter? Inverter converts direct current generated by the PV array to the alternate current. This is a necessary because most of our home appliances requires AC power to function. Then you need another appliances or you can unit for in this power generation system, that is called utility meter, or you can say the power meter. What is the function of that? This power meter measures the electricity consumed by the household apartment. Then you have to understand another term, that is called electric grid. Electric grid is an interconnected network that distributes electricity from producer to the consumer. If the house is wired on the grid, any excess power generated after using and storing it in the battery will be sent to the grid. A PV power generation plant also requires a variety of balance of system hardware such as wiring, overcurrent, safety and grounding equipment, storage protection and disconnected device and other power processing equipment as shown in the figure. This figure depicts the main component of power generation system as well as the relationship between them. Now we have to understand types of the PV system. During the summer, it is possible that solar PV system produce more electricity than it required by the consumer. This excess energy can be stored in the batteries or fed directly into the utility grid via the PV system. The PV power generation system are classified into two types based on their functional and the operational requirement, as well as how the components are connected to other power source and the grid. So it can be classified as grid connected, or you can say on grid PV system. The other classification is standalone, or you can say off grid PV system. Now we will discuss grid connected PV system. The grid connected PV system are also referred as on grid, grid tied or utility interactive. The PV array in the PV system is linked to the local power grid by a power inverter. It works in a tandem with the electric utility grid. Extra power generated that is not required by the user is fed to the utility grid. This figure shows a block diagram of the main component of grid connected PV system. So basically it is made of these three major components, like a PV array that converts solar energy into the DC power, then grid connected inverter that converts DC power to the AC power, and also generates sinusoidal power that will be used by the local AC load, or you can say it will be used by the consumer. The utility meter is also used to send any excess power to the power grid, and to record this electricity coming from or going to the utility grid, a bidirectional meter is also required. Now we will discuss standalone PV system. So standalone PV system is also called is off-grid power system. A system like this is made of number of individual photovoltaic panel. A number of 12 volt or PV modules are combined in a standalone PV system to achieve a desired power output. It is not connected to the power grid. The electricity generated by this system is used directly by the user, and any excess energy is stored in the batteries. The stored energy in batteries is used during the night or when there is a no solar radiation. This figure shows the main component of the standalone PV system, like PV panel, charge controller, battery bank and inverter, which is part of this standalone PV system. So standalone PV system are commonly used in rural areas where access to the local electric grid is limited. The incident sunlight on the PV panel is first converted into the DC power. This power can be used directly to the power the DC load or stored in a battery bank by the charge controller. Our charge controller is used to prevent the battery from being overcharged, and inverter convert this DC power stored in a battery to the AC power, which is then sent to the AC appliances. Now we will discuss the rooftop solar PV system. The PV array are installed on the rooftop of residential, or you can say the commercial building. In the rooftop solar PV system, it is typically installed on a building roof where sunlight is easily and available. Figure shows a schematic diagram of a typical rooftop PV system. The sunlight that falls on the rooftop PV array is converted into direct current power. It is stored in the battery bank with the help of the charge controller for use when there is no grid power available. A DC-AC inverter is used to convert DC power stored in the battery into AC power to the power home appliances such as light bulb, television and refrigerator. A charger is also connected between the mains and the battery to change it using grid electricity. This figure explains the typical roof mounted solar PV power system. Now we have to discuss the storage capacity of the battery. The storage capacity of battery is measured in the ampere hour. Like suppose I am saying the storage capacity of this battery is 20 ampere hour. That means that particular battery is able to give 20 ampere in 1 hour. Then if this value of ampere hour is multiplied by the battery voltage, for example 12 volt, so you will get the watt hour. Thus for the current case we get 20 ampere hour multiplied by 12 volts, so it comes nearly 240 ampere volt multiplied by hour, or you can say 240 watt hour. This simply means the battery is able to supply 240 watt for 1 hour, or you can say 120 watt for the 2 hour, or you can say 80 watt for the 3 hour. In other words, if more energy is taken from the battery, it will discharge faster. Now how the size of the solar PV system is decided? So for calculating the energy which can be supplied by the solar cell panel, you need to adopt the following procedure. First is just multiply the wattage of the solar panel by the hours of the sunshine available. Then this result is obtained, may be multiplied by a factor of 0.85 to account for the additional losses. Then For 15 watt panel, 6 hour of sunshine, the energy supplied will be is equal to 15 multiplied by 6 multiplied by 0.85. So it comes nearly 76.5 watt hour. Now just we can take a one example to make what we have discussed in the previous slide. So just you take the example, like during the night hour, if you wish to use a light bulb or you can say CFL and a fan for the 3 hours, the total wattage of CFL and fan is 60 watt. So you need to calculate the size of the battery. So how you will proceed? Just you have to note down what parameters are the given here. So total watt hour required is what? 60 watt, just you multiply the 3 hours. So it comes 180 watt hour. Now if you decide to buy a battery of 12 volt battery, its ampere hour rating will be is equal to what? Just 180 hour divided by 12, so it comes 15 ampere hour. That means for 6 volt battery, ampere hour rating will be is equal to what? It is 180 divided by 6, so it comes 30 ampere hour. Now we can take a one more example on the basis of the different parameter are given, like if solar intensity of 500 watt per meter square is incident on solar cell of area of 3 meter square, then you have to calculate the power output of the solar cell if the efficiency of the solar cell is given. So just you can note down what parameters are given, like efficiency are given, in solar intensity are given. So intensity given is what? Solar intensity is 500 watt per meter square. So this IT is equal to what? 500 watt per meter square. Area of solar cell is what? That is 3 meter square, and solar cell efficiency is given as 12%. So you have a formula, that is a how you calculate the electrical efficiency. This efficiency can be written as output upon input, and output is you have to calculate. So input is what? Just you have to multiply it with the input and multiply it by the area of solar cell. And you can also write output upon intensity multiplied by the solar cell. So this output is what? This output is nothing, just multiplied by the solar cell efficiency multiplied by the intensity and area of the solar cell. The efficiency is given as 12%, so you can write as 0.12. Intensity is given as 500 watt per meter square, just put this value, and AC is given, that means area of solar cell is given as a 3. So after the solving you will be able to calculate the output power is coming 180 watt. Dear learner, in this particular session we have discussed the working principle of the photovoltaic effect, then we discussed different type of solar cell and how the efficiency can be calculated, like then we have also discussed different parameter associated with the solar cell, like short circuit current, open circuit voltage, fill factor. Then we have discussed the PV system for the power generation system, like we have discussed off grid system, on grid system, different component of the power generation system, like we have discussed what is the use of the charge controller, what is the use of the inverter and all that. Learner, in the next session we would discuss the principle of the solar water heater and how efficient use of the solar energy can be made. Then we will discuss energy losses associated with the flat plate collector, and after that we will discuss collector cum storage solar water heater and solar water heater based on the flat plate collector, and after that we will also analyze thermal performance of the solar water heater, and we will also discuss construction and working of solar water heater based on evacuated tube collector. Thank you very much.